A cry in the alley. It was raining. Cold wind blew through the empty streets of the human colony city. Most people had gone inside. The sky was dark, the roads wet, and the lights flickered. But one man, named Ray, was still walking alone. He had just finished his night shift at the supply center. Ray zipped up his jacket and turned down a quiet alley to take a shortcut. That's when he heard it. A sound. It wasn't a cat or a machine. It was soft, shaky, almost like someone crying. But it didn't sound human. He stopped. The sound came again, closer this time, a mix of words and sobs. Please. Help. Please. Ray looked around. Behind some old crates next to a pile of broken metal, he saw movement. Something, or someone, was crouched low, hiding. Hello? Ray said carefully. Are you okay? The crying stopped. Ray stepped forward slowly. I won't hurt you, he said. Then he saw her. A woman, but not human. Her skin had a soft lavender glow. Her long white hair was wet from the rain. She had large black eyes, full of fear and pain. Her arms were wrapped tightly around something. Ray realized it was a small child. The baby was not moving. The woman's lips trembled as she looked at Ray. Her voice cracked as she whispered, My baby won't wake up. Ray's heart dropped. The child's face was pale. Its small chest wasn't rising. Please help her, the alien mother said again, her hands shaking. Ray didn't know what to do at first. His brain froze, but then he stepped forward and knelt beside her. Let me see, he said softly. She hesitated, eyes wide with fear. She held the child tighter. I just want to help, Ray said again. His voice was calm. Finally, she let him touch the baby. Ray gently placed 2 fingers on the tiny neck. Faint, very faint. There was still a heartbeat, but it was weak. We need warmth, he said. She's too cold. He looked at the woman. She wore thin clothes soaked from the rain. She must have been out here for hours, maybe days. Ray took off his own jacket and wrapped it around the baby. There's a medical tent 2 streets away, he said. I'll take you. The woman didn't move. They'll hurt us, she said. They don't like my kind. Ray knew she was probably right. Aliens like her, soft-featured, peaceful ones, were treated badly in the city. Some humans believed they were useless. Others were scared of them. But Ray didn't care about all that now. A child was dying. Won't let anyone hurt you, he promised. He helped the mother to her feet. She was weak, barely able to stand. But she held her baby close and followed him. They walked through the rain quickly. Ray kept looking at the baby, hoping to see movement. Nothing yet. They reached the medical tent. But as soon as the guards saw the alien woman, they blocked the door. Humans only, one guard said. This is a baby, Ray shouted. She's dying. Not our problem, the other guard said. You want to help them? Go somewhere else. Ray stood there, fists clenched. The mother had fallen to her knees, crying softly, rocking her child back and forth. No one helps us, she whispered. Ray looked down at her, then at the baby, then at the cold, hard faces of the guards. Fine, he said. I'll take care of it myself. He lifted the mother in one arm and the baby in the other. The guards just laughed and turned away. Ray ran through the streets, not stopping until he reached his small apartment. He kicked the door open, rushed inside, and laid the baby gently on a blanket. He turned on the heater, grabbed towels, and started drying the child. The alien woman stood frozen near the door, unsure if she should enter. It's okay, Ray said, breathing hard. You're safe here. She finally stepped inside. Her body was shaking. She knelt beside the baby and held her tiny hand. Please, she whispered. Please wake up. Ray placed a warm bottle near the baby's lips. Still no movement. He looked at the mother. Her eyes were full of fear and silent tears. We won't give up, Ray said. Not tonight. Outside, the rain kept falling. But inside the small room, something had changed. a human and an alien mother, both strangers, now fighting together for one little life. The room was quiet, except for the soft humming of the heater. The little alien baby lay on the blanket, wrapped in a warm towel. Her skin was pale, almost bluish. Her tiny chest didn't move. Ray knelt beside her, pressing his fingers gently against her neck again. Still a faint heartbeat. But the baby wasn't breathing. The alien mother, Lyra, sat close, her eyes wide with fear. She held her breath every second, hoping for any sign, anything at all, that her baby would return to her. She whispered the child's name again and again in her own language like a prayer. Ray grabbed a clean cloth, dipped it in warm water, and wiped the baby's face. He didn't know much about alien biology, but he couldn't let the child die without trying. He had once helped a human baby years ago, when his neighbor's daughter had nearly drowned in a bath. He remembered what the medic had done. He had to try that now. Ray tilted the baby's head back slightly and began breathing gently into her mouth. Careful and slow, he pressed his fingers on her chest softly, counting. 1, 2, 3. Lyra gasped, watching in silence, her hands clutched over her mouth. Ray repeated the steps. Breathe, press, breathe, press. Suddenly, a small cough escaped from the baby's mouth. Ray froze. The baby coughed again, a weak, tiny sound, but it was something. Lyra let out a sound that was not quite a cry, not quite a scream, but full of emotion. She crawled closer and reached for her baby's hand. The baby's fingers moved slightly. She's breathing, Ray said in disbelief. It's shallow, but it's there. Lyra nodded quickly, tears rolling down her cheeks. You saved her. No, Ray said. She's fighting. I'm just helping. He gently picked up the baby and held her near the heater. Lyra sat next to him, wrapping her arms around them both, rocking slowly. The baby let out a tiny sound again, like a sleepy sigh. Lyra looked at Ray. Why did you help me? Ray didn't answer right away. He just stared at the baby, then at Lyra's exhausted face. Because no one else would, he finally said. And that's not right. Lyra looked down. Back home, they came at night. Humans. They burned our homes. Said we were pests. We ran for days. I lost everything. Everyone. Her voice cracked. Even here. No one looks at us. We are less than dirt. Ray sighed. Not to me. They sat there in silence for a while, with the baby sleeping softly between them. But Ray knew this was just the beginning. The baby needed real care, and he couldn't do much alone. He thought of the clinic again, but the guards had already made their choice clear. There's one more place, he said at last. But it's risky. Lyra looked at him, her face still wet from tears. I know someone who used to be a doctor, Ray continued. He works off-grid now, not legal, but he helps people who can't go to the main hospitals. He might know what to do. Lyra gave a small nod. We'll go. But before they could even stand, a loud knock hit the door. Ray froze. Knock, knock. Knock 3 slow, heavy hits, not like a friendly neighbor, not like a delivery. It was the kind of knock that made your heart drop. Lyra held her baby tighter. Her whole body shook. Ray stood up slowly and walked to the door. He didn't open it. Who is it? He called out. A deep voice answered. City Patrol. We're checking reports of alien activity. Open the door. Ray's heart raced. He turned to Lyra, whispering quickly, Go to the back, hide in the storage closet, don't make a sound. Lyra didn't argue. She ran to the back room and gently placed herself and her baby in the small storage space. She pulled the blanket over them both and closed the wooden door behind her. Ray turned back to the front. He opened the door just slightly. 2 officers stood there, both in dark uniforms with the city's Silver Star badge. One held a scanner. The other looked bored. We got a report, the taller one said. Strange light seen from this window. You living alone? Ray nodded. Yeah, just me. The scanner beeped. The officer stepped forward. Mind if we look around? Ray blocked the door with his arm. Actually, I do. Unless you got a warrant, you can leave. The officer narrowed his eyes. You hiding something, citizen? Ray didn't flinch. Just my peace and quiet. That's all. After a tense moment, the officer looked at his partner and shrugged. False alert. Let's move. Ray shut the door the moment they turned away. He stood there, listening to their fading steps, his hand still on the doorknob. Only when silence returned did he walk to the storage room and open the door. Lyra was there, still holding her baby. Her eyes were wide. They're gone, Ray whispered. But they'll be back. Lyra looked at him. Then we must go. Tonight. Ray nodded. He looked down at the baby. Her tiny eyes had opened. Just a little. It was time to run again. But not without hope, not this time. Ray moved through the night streets with quiet steps. The city lights were dim now and most people were asleep. His jacket was soaked again from the rain, but he didn't care. In his arms, the alien baby slept, wrapped in blankets. Behind him, Lyra followed closely, her eyes constantly scanning the shadows. Her feet were bare, her dress still torn, but she never complained. She only cared about the little one in Ray's arms. They took the back alleys, avoiding cameras, patrol lights, and drones. Ray knew where to go, an old warehouse district where his friend Dr. Halden lived off-grid. Halden was once a brilliant medic, but he had lost his license years ago for treating unregistered aliens. Since then, he worked in secret, helping the unwanted. After a long, silent walk, they reached the edge of the district. Ray tapped a secret code on a metal door. Moments later, a camera lens popped out, scanned his face, and the door creaked. Open. An old man with gray hair and a metal hand stepped into view. Ray? He said, surprised. It's been years. I need help, Ray replied, stepping aside to show the baby in his arms. Halden's eyes narrowed. Alien child? She's dying, Ray said. Please. Halden didn't ask more. He turned around and waved them in. Inside, the warehouse had been changed into a quiet, hidden clinic. Old machines hummed softly. Medical tools were stacked neatly on shelves. A warm yellow light filled the room, and for the first time that night, Lyra's face looked less afraid. Ray gently placed the baby on a padded table. Halden began checking her right away. Breathing, temperature, blood color, pulse. He worked in silence. Lyra stood by the table, her hands together, lips moving in a soft prayer. She didn't notice the dirt on her knees or the cuts on her arms anymore. All she saw was her daughter. Ray watched too, saying nothing. His hands trembled slightly. He didn't know why this child meant so much to him. Maybe because no one else cared. Maybe because he had once lost someone too. As Halden worked, he asked softly, "Who is she?" "Her name is Lyra," Ray said. "She's been hiding for weeks. Her baby just stopped breathing in the cold. No one would help." Halden nodded. Same old story. After a few minutes, the doctor gave a small sigh of relief. "She'll live," he said. "Weak, but strong enough to fight. She needs warm fluids, rest, and time." Lyra covered her mouth with her hand. A sob escaped her throat. She couldn't speak, only cry. Ray gently touched her shoulder. "She's safe now." Lyra looked up at him, eyes full of water. She whispered, "You're the first who saw me as real." Ray was silent. Later that night, while the baby slept on a soft bed near the heater, Lyra sat across from Ray, wrapped in a clean blanket. Halden gave her tea and stitched a cut on her leg. The room was calm now. Lyra finally spoke, her voice low. "There was fire everywhere," she said. "Back on our world." Ray listened. "We were not fighters. My people are healers. We grow. Herbs make medicines. When war came, we offered to help both sides, but your army, they didn't care." She paused, staring at her tea. "They came at night, burning homes, taking men, killing anyone who didn't run. I had just given birth. I wrapped my baby in cloth and ran through the trees. My husband stayed behind. I never saw him again." She wiped her eyes. I came here, hiding, eating from trash, sleeping in pipes. People shouted at me, some threw rocks. I stopped asking for help, until I saw you. Ray looked down. He had nothing to say. He had seen war, but never from her side. He had never imagined the fear, the hunger, the silence of being hunted simply for being born on the wrong world. Lyra leaned forward, her hands shaking. I thought humans had no hearts. Ray finally spoke softly. Some don't, but not all. She looked into his eyes. My baby's name is Sarah, she said. It means little light in my language. Ray smiled gently. A perfect name. They both turned to look at the child. Sarah slept peacefully now, her tiny chest, rising and falling slowly. Her small fingers twitched in dreams. Halden spoke from the corner. You can stay the night, but not long. This place isn't safe for aliens either. Ray nodded. We'll leave in the morning. Where will you go? Lyra asked. Ray thought for a moment. There's an old farm beyond the hills. Empty. Now, no patrols. I used to fix machines there. We can hide for a while. Lyra nodded, her voice low. Then I will follow you. Ray stared at her for a long second. In her eyes, he saw strength wrapped in sorrow. A woman who had lost everything, but still kept breathing for the sake of her child. She wasn't just an alien. She was a mother, and, now maybe, she was something more. A beginning of trust between two different worlds. The old warehouse was silent, except for the soft sound of rain tapping against the roof. A small heater glowed in the corner. Beside it, little Sarah lay curled, in a bundle of blankets, her chest rising and falling slowly, peacefully. Her tiny hands twitched and her mouth moved slightly, as if she was dreaming. Lyra sat beside her baby with one hand gently resting on Sarah's chest, feeling each breath. It was the first time in days that she didn't feel terror inside her. Art. Just one night of safety, meant everything. Ray stood a few steps away, watching them both. He had barely slept. His shirt was still damp from the rain and his boots left wet marks on the wooden floor. But he didn't move. He didn't want to disturb the moment. A moment of peace like this was rare. Lyra turned her head and looked at him. She's alive. Because of you. Ray shook his head. She's alive because she's strong. You're strong too. Lyra gave a tired smile. I wasn't. I was just afraid. But when she stopped breathing, something inside me screamed. I couldn't lose her. Not after losing everything else. Slowly sat down beside her. You didn't scream, you whispered. But even that whisper found someone who heard it. Lyra looked down at her daughter and her eyes glistened with tears. She's all I have left. They sat in silence for a while, listening to Sarah's soft breaths. But peace never lasted long. Suddenly, the door buzzed. Not loud, but enough to freeze the air in the room. Ray jumped to his feet. Lyra's body tensed. She pulled the baby closer and wrapped another blanket over her. Ray looked through the tiny camera screen by the door. A man in dark gray stood outside. He wasn't wearing a uniform, but Ray recognized the type. Undercover patrol. They found us, Ray muttered. Lyra's hands began to shake. They'll take her. Ray turned back quickly. We have minutes, maybe less. Halden has a back tunnel. I saw it earlier. He helped Lyra gather Sarah gently into her arms. The baby stirred, but didn't wake. Lyra hugged her tight, her face pale with fear again. Ray led them toward the far end of the warehouse. He pulled aside a heavy shelf and opened a trap door. A cold draft blew upward from the dark passage. Go, he said. I'll distract him. Lyra hesitated. But they'll take you. I won't let them touch you or Sarah, Ray said, his voice firm. You've already lost enough. Lyra's lips parted, but no words came out. She only nodded and stepped into the passage with Sarah held close. Ray closed the door behind them and turned to face the main entrance. The knock came again, louder this time. He opened the door slightly. Yeah? He said, trying to sound casual. The man outside stared at him. Tall, clean-cut, eyes too sharp. City patrol, the man said. Unmarked. We've tracked alien energy signatures here. Ray frowned. Energy signatures? All you'll find here are broken heaters and rusted tools. The man didn't smile. Mind if I look around? Ray shrugged. Actually, I do. Unless you got papers, this is still private property. The man stepped forward, placing a hand on the door. Move, he ordered. Ray didn't. Behind him, a small machine beeped. It was the baby's blanket, still warm, giving off heat. The man's eyes flicked toward the sound. Ray slammed the door, shut in his face and bolted it. Outside, boots thundered against the metal. Ray grabbed a metal bar and locked the second bolt. He looked back toward the tunnel door. Hidden. He ran to the workbench and knocked over tools. He lit an old fuel torch, creating a sudden burst of heat and flame. The scanner outside would read it as false alien activity. A loud bang hit the door, then another. But by the time the patrol kicked their way inside, Ray was standing with fire gloves on, fake documents on the table, and sparks flying around. See? He said. Told you. Just fixing heaters. The men rushed in, scanning. Every corner. They found nothing. One of them picked up the used towel Sarah had been wrapped in. Still warm, but no DNA trace. The leader narrowed his eyes. Where's the alien, human? Ray looked up and smiled just a little. You think I'd hide an alien here? You guys throw people in cells for feeding them. No one said anything. Finally, the officer gave a short nod. Watch yourself. They left. Ray stood alone in the smoky room, heart racing. His hands shook now, not from fear, but from the weight of what he had just done. He walked to the tunnel door and opened it. Lyra and Sarah were still there, curled together, waiting. They're gone, Ray whispered. Lyra let out a breath she had been holding for too long. Ray helped her up. We need to move before morning, he said. Lyra looked down at her daughter, now breathing softly, skin warmer, heart stronger. She lived, she whispered. And so did I because of you. Ray looked at the child and nodded. I heard her heartbeat, he said. And now, I'll protect it. Ray led Lyra and baby Sarah through the cold underground tunnel beneath the warehouse. The air was damp and the walls were covered in moss and rust. Each step echoed, but Ray moved quickly, carefully. He held a small flashlight in one hand, watching the path ahead, while Lyra followed silently, clutching her baby close to her chest. The newborn's soft breaths were the only comfort in the dark. The tunnel stretched far under the city, part of an old mining system long abandoned. Ray had mapped it years ago when he worked maintenance jobs. Now it was their only way out. They'll return to search again, he said in a low voice. We can't be near the city by sunrise. Lyra nodded, her voice weak. I trust you, Ray. Just don't let them take her. Ray glanced back. I won't. After what felt like an hour of walking, they climbed a rusted ladder and came up through a heavy hatch in a small, forgotten shed at the edge of the fields outside the city. The rain had stopped, but the ground was wet, and the stars above peeked through broken clouds. In the distance, old buildings stood in silence, abandoned, half-broken, overgrown. One of them was an old repair station where Ray had once fixed farming machines. It had thick walls, hidden corners, and a working generator if luck was still on their side. They reached the building just before dawn. Ray kicked open the door. Dust flew in the air, but the room was dry and quiet. Broken furniture lay scattered, but the roof held strong. He moved quickly, sealing windows and locking doors. Lyra laid Sarah down on a pile of cloth she had shaped into a bed. The baby stirred, letting out a soft sound. Lyra smiled for the first time in days. She's warm, she whispered, and safe, for now. But the peace didn't last long. Outside, the low hum of drones filled the air. Ray peeked through a small crack in the wall. 3 search drones glided above the ground, lights scanning the fields. They're faster than I thought, Ray muttered. Lyra stood up, holding her daughter tight. Will they find us? Not if we stay inside, he said. This place is off-grid, no power signals, but we can't stay long. The drones passed by, sweeping the area slowly. Ray held his breath. One of the drones paused near their building, as if sensing something. Its light hovered outside the door for a full minute, then it moved on. Ray exhaled. That was too close. He turned toward Lyra. She looked terrified, but she didn't cry. Her strength was quiet, born of desperation. Ray could see it in her eyes. This mother would give her life to protect her child. You should sleep, Ray said gently. I'll watch. Lyra nodded, sitting beside her baby, never taking her eyes off her for even a second. But rest didn't come. Just as the sun rose in the sky, the distant sound of footsteps echoed from the fields. Ray grabbed a wrench and peered out the back. 3 figures. Human patrol. Not drones, not soldiers, local bounty hunters. The worst kind. They worked for credits, and aliens brought the highest rewards, especially mothers with babies. The government said it was for security, but everyone knew it was cruelty in the name of control. Ray turned to Lyra. They're here. She didn't panic. She simply held Sarah closer, placed a small kiss on her forehead, and whispered something in her native tongue. Ray checked the back exit. We'll run. Through the irrigation path behind the hill. There's a forest just a mile from here. Lyra stood up without question, but Sarah let out a soft cry. Too loud. Outside, the hunters turned sharply. They heard us, Ray whispered. He grabbed a bag, wrapped Sarah quickly inside for warmth, and motioned to Lyra. Go. I'll stop them for a few seconds. No, she cried softly. Just trust me again, Ray said. Run fast, I'll catch up. She looked into his eyes and ran. Ray stepped into the doorway facing the hunters. One of them raised a scanner. You there, the lead hunter shouted. Stop, this zone is restricted. Ray smiled tightly. Didn't know walking was illegal now. The hunter stepped closer. We're looking for fugitives. You seen any alien scum pass this way? Ray shrugged. Just me and the ghosts in here? The scanner beeped. The hunter lifted his gun. Ray threw the wrench hard. It hit the scanner and sent sparks flying. The hunters cursed and rushed forward. Ray ran, leading them in the opposite direction from Lyra. Bullets hit the dirt behind him. He ducked behind an old fuel barrel and stayed low, breathing fast, heart pounding. The hunters searched the building, shouting. But they didn't see the tunnel behind the repair station, and they didn't follow Lyra. She was already gone, over the hill and toward the trees. Ray smiled in pain. He had done it. He just had to survive, now. The forest was quiet. Only the sound of leaves rustling and soft bird calls filled the air. Sunlight passed gently through the trees, painting golden light on the wet ground. Lyra moved carefully, her arms wrapped around baby Sarah. Her feet were sore, her body weak, but she didn't stop. Every step was a promise. To keep her daughter safe no matter what. She didn't know if Ray was alive. She had heard the shouts, the gunfire. She had looked back once, but he had waved her away before she could turn back. That image stayed burned in her mind. A man who barely knew her choosing to protect her life with his own. Now she was alone again, except for Sarah. Lyra, finally, found a small clearing where the sun warmed the grass. She sat down, laid the baby in her lap, and checked her skin. Still warm, still breathing. A soft hum left Sarah's throat, like a tiny song. Tears welled up in Lyra's eyes. You're strong. Little one, she whispered. Stronger than me. She looked around. The forest was deep. No cities, no drones. It was quiet, but lonely. Suddenly, the bushes behind her rustled. Lyra froze. Her heart raced. She clutched Sarah and slowly stood up, ready to run again if needed. Then, from between the trees, a figure stumbled out. Lyra gasped. Ray? He was covered in dirt, his shirt torn, a cut bleeding near his temple. But he was breathing. Alive. Ray smiled weakly. Told you I'd catch up? Lyra ran to him, her voice shaking. You're hurt. I've been worse, he said. The hunters chased me all the way to the river. I jumped in to lose them. She helped him sit against a tree. You shouldn't have come. Ray looked at her, and then at the baby in her arms. I had to, he said. You're not safe alone. Lyra stared at him. Why do you keep helping me? You could have left us so many times. You could have saved yourself. Ray didn't answer right away. He reached out and gently touched Sarah's tiny hand. Because the world already has enough people who walk away, he said softly. I won't be one of them. Lyra's eyes filled with tears again. Ray leaned his head back against the tree and closed his eyes for a moment. After a while, Lyra built a small fire using broken branches. She made Ray drink from a bottle of clean water she had carried in her cloth bag. Then she sat beside him, watching the flames. I was wrong about humans, she said quietly. Ray opened his eyes. I thought your kind had no hearts. I thought you were only cruel. But you stayed. You gave me your coat. You gave my daughter life. Ray looked at the flames. I've seen cruelty too. On both sides. But I've also seen people change. Lyra leaned closer to the fire, holding Sarah close. The baby was sleeping now, her little face peaceful. You know? Lyra whispered. On my world, a man who saves a child becomes part of her spirit. Her life is tied to his. It is more than thanks. It is a bond. Ray looked at her, confused. She smiled softly. You saved her. So now, she carries a piece of your spirit with her. Ray's voice was quiet. Then I guess I'll have to stick around. Make sure she doesn't lose it. They both smiled. The fire crackled softly. Birds called from the trees. And for the first time in many days, Lyra felt something warm inside, her hope. That night, they built a small shelter between thick trees using old cloth and branches. Ray fixed a dry patch of ground with leaves for Sarah to sleep on. Lyra gently laid her baby down, then looked up at the stars. She reached out and held Ray's hand without saying anything. He didn't pull away. Under the starlit sky, two different worlds sat side by side. Tired, hunted, but no longer alone. Ray looked at her and said, I'll protect you both. No matter what? Lyra nodded, her voice quiet. Then we are not afraid anymore. In the silence of the forest, something new began to grow between them. Not just survival, not just thanks, but a quiet connection. A bond built not on blood, but on sacrifice and choice. And though the road ahead was still unknown, one truth was clear: they were not running anymore, they were building something together. Days passed slowly in the forest, but they were calm, safe. The sun rose and fell gently through the trees, and birds filled the air with soft songs. The sounds of patrols and drones were far behind them now. Ray, Lyra, and baby Sarah had built a quiet life, even if it was small and hidden. Ray had fixed the old shelter, adding strong branches for the roof and sealing the sides with cloth and vines. He even built a small water filter from broken machine parts in a pile of stones. Lyra helped gather food, roots, berries, and herbs she recognized from her homeworld. Together they made something close to peace. Sarah was growing stronger. Her eyes were brighter now, and her tiny hands grabbed at leaves and Ray's fingers with curiosity. She often cooed when he held her, and sometimes she laughed softly in her sleep. Each sound brought joy to both Ray and Lyra. One evening, as the sky turned orange and gold, Ray sat beside the fire, carving a small wooden charm with his knife. Lyra was feeding Sarah warm broth made from herbs she boiled earlier. The baby made happy sounds which made both of them smile. Lyra looked at Ray and said gently, "She has become more than just my daughter now." Ray raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "She is a child of two worlds," Lyra said softly. "Born in mine, but saved in yours." Ray paused for a moment, thinking about her words. Then he nodded. Yeah. She's not just alien or human now. She's something stronger. A symbol. Lyra looked down at her baby, brushing her cheek with love. In my culture, a child is renamed when they survive death and begin a new life. Ray looked surprised. So, you'll give her a new name? Lyra nodded. Yes. Her name was Sarah. It means little light. But now, I want to name her with you, because you brought her back. Ray blinked, unsure what to say. No one had ever asked him to name a child before. Lyra watched him. You don't have to say yes. But to me, you are part of her soul now. You gave her warmth, food, safety, and something more, hope. Ray smiled slowly. He looked at the sky, then down at the child resting in Lyra's arms. Well, I once knew a name. A story, actually. It was about a star that refused to die. Even when the sky was darkest, it kept shining, stubborn and brave. Lyra tilted her head gently. What was the star's name? Arya, he said. In the old stories, it meant the one who rises. Lyra repeated the word softly. Arya. She looked down at her baby and whispered, Arya, the name of a new life. The child opened her eyes then, as if she heard them. Her gaze met Ray's and she let out a soft sound, a happy one. She accepts it, Lyra said with a smile. Arya it is. Ray looked at both of them. Then, welcome to the world again, Arya. The fire crackled gently. The trees swayed. The moment felt sacred. Later that night, after Arya was asleep inside the shelter, wrapped warm and safe, Lyra sat beside Ray near the fire. She looked calm now, peaceful. I was nothing when I met you, she said softly. I was cold, dirty, afraid. I thought my story had already ended. Ray looked at her. But it hadn't. No, she agreed. You started a new chapter for me. And for her. Ray didn't speak. He only reached into his pocket and pulled out the small wooden charm he had carved. It was shaped like a flame, simple, but strong. He handed it to Lyra. This is for Arya, a reminder that she was born from fire, but did not burn. Lyra took it gently, tears in her eyes. She held it close. Thank you, Ray, for everything. He smiled. You don't have to thank me. I just did what was right. She looked at him for a long time. You did more than that. You became family. Under the quiet stars, they sat together. An alien mother, a human man, and a child named Arya, who had once stopped breathing but now glowed with life. They had nothing fancy. No home of stone or soft beds. No gold or wealth or armies. But they had each other. And in a universe filled with fear, that was enough.